I never planned to bring down an entire department with a single smile, but that is exactly what happened after 5 relentless years of business travel across the country. Yesterday afternoon, my manager, Dale Moreland, leaned back in his chair and said, "Your travel costs cannot exceed $400 per trip. If you do not like it, you can quit." I did not argue. I did not defend the contracts I had spent half a decade securing. I just looked at him, steady and tired, and said, "Yes, sir. Thank you for everything." His eyebrows lifted like he expected a fight. When none came, he waved me out of his office. I walked to my desk without speaking to anyone and packed the files I actually cared about. My hands were calm in a way my heartbeat was not. My phone buzzed once an automatic reminder about an upcoming trip to Denver, and I silenced it. No drama, no shouting, just a decision settling inside my chest. Hours later, at 9:15 in the evening, I made one phone call. I did not script anything. I did not rehearse. I simply dialed Horizon Tech Solutions and asked for the person who had trusted me the longest. By sunrise, Landmark Vista Marketing was sending frantic internal emails about contracts collapsing. Dale sent 2 messages in a row marked urgent. I did not open either of them. The strange thing is that none of it felt like revenge. It felt like breathing after holding my lungs tight for too many years. 5 years of airport gates, late-night negotiations, and pitching in unfamiliar conference rooms had made me good at my job. Maybe too good, because the company forgot there was a person behind the performance. I closed my laptop and sat back, letting the silence settle. Dale thought the smile meant surrender. He had no idea it was the beginning of the end. Before everything unraveled, though, I used to believe the work mattered enough to endure anything. That belief carried me through more trips than I can count. And it all began long before yesterday's ultimatum. When I think about those years, it blurs into a string of check-ins, boarding passes, and conversations held over lukewarm coffee. I used to joke that I lived more in airport terminals than in my own apartment in Portland. It was not really a joke. Most of my days started with a call from a client before sunrise. "Rowan. Can we move the meeting up, or Rowan? We need you in Dallas by tomorrow." I always said yes. That was how I built trust. People worked with Landmark Vista because they expected me to show up, not because they cared about the company stamped on my business card. During one late-night trip to Chicago, a client named Marta leaned across a conference table and said, "You know, half the reason I renewed this contract was because you understand what we're trying to build." She said it softly, almost apologetic, like she knew how little appreciation I got back home. I brought in millions in revenue, and yet any acknowledgement from leadership was a short email or a tight nod in the hallway. I kept going because I believed the work mattered, and because I thought loyalty would be repaid eventually. That belief chipped away slower than I realized. One afternoon, while I was grabbing my laptop from the shared workspace, my coworker Jonah approached me. He lowered his voice as soon as he said my name. "Rowan, have you heard anything about the restructuring?" I frowned. "What restructuring?" He checked the hallway before continuing, like we were doing something dangerous. "Management is reviewing travel budgets. Yours is at the top of the list." Dale has been in finance all week. My jaw clenched before I even understood why. My trips are necessary. They know that. Jonah gave a helpless shrug. "I just thought you should know." It was one of the first cracks in the foundation. The moment I realized the numbers I delivered did not protect me. The road had given me everything I had built, and it was slowly becoming the reason they wanted to pull me down. The meeting started like any other Dale at the front of the conference room, everyone else pretending to take notes. I took a seat near the end of the table, still shaking off a red-eye flight from Phoenix. Dale clicked through a slideshow full of numbers until he stopped on a slide labeled excess spending. He didn't look at anyone else when he spoke. "Some of you are treating travel like a personal playground," he said. Then his eyes shifted directly to me. "Rowan's trips, for example, have become a financial burden on this department. The room fell dead silent. Jonah swallowed hard beside me. A few people stared down at their laptops. No one spoke. I kept my face still. If there's a concern, we can discuss the details privately. Dale crossed his arms. The details are already reviewed. Finance flagged 3 of your recent trips as unnecessary. He tapped the screen. Chicago, Denver, and Austin. None of them needed senior-level presence. I leaned forward slightly. Chicago secured a $200,000 renewal. Denver prevented a client escalation. Austin finalized a partnership we had been chasing for months. Dale waved his hand as if brushing crumbs off a table. It does not matter. There are cheaper ways to handle these situations, Jonah murmured. Those were her accounts. Dale. But Dale shot him a warning look. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from the hotel I had stayed at 2 nights earlier. Your payment has been declined. Please contact your employer. I stared at the notification. The company card had never bounced. Not once. I raised my eyes to Dale. Did finance restrict my card? He didn't blink. Talk to them if you have questions. The power shift was unmistakable. This was no longer about tightening budgets. It was about tightening control. And I was the target. The email from finance arrived just after noon with a subject line that felt clinical request for clarification. I opened the attachment and stared at the spreadsheet laid out in neat columns. Every trip I had taken in the last 6 months had a red flag beside it. I called finance immediately. Marcy, who normally sounded cheerful, answered with a strained voice. Rowan, I knew you'd call. I'm supposed to ask for explanations on all flagged expenses. All of them, I asked. Every one of these trips was tied to major accounts. Marcy hesitated. I know. But Dale said we need full documentation. He's been collecting incidents. I tightened my grip on the phone. Incidents. He brought up your meals, flight changes, hotel adjustments, things we never questioned before. He said it shows a pattern of doing my job. I said. Marcy exhaled softly. I can only pass along what I was told. I hung up and forwarded her a breakdown of each trip, the $200,000 renewal in Chicago, the Denver escalation, the Austin partnership. I included emails from clients thanking me for stepping in. None of it made me feel any better. Minutes later, Jonah appeared at my desk. You saw the memo, he asked. What memo? He slid his phone toward me. It was an internal announcement scheduled to go out the next day, effective immediately. All travel costs are capped. Any exceptions require executive approval. My stomach pulled tight. Dale is doing this on purpose. Jonah lowered his voice. He's been in meetings with upper management all week. Someone said he wants to show he can discipline spending. You're the example. I closed my laptop slowly. Everything I had built, 5 years of trust, late nights, contracts held together by personal relationships was being reduced to color-coded cells. And Dale was using those cells to rewrite the story of my work. Dale's message appeared on my screen at 3:19 in the afternoon. Come to my office. Now. No greeting. No explanation. When I stepped inside, he shut the door behind me. His tone was already set. Sit, he said, without looking up from a folder. I stayed standing. I can hear you just fine. He finally lifted his eyes. Your attitude is becoming part of the problem. My attitude or my results, I asked. Dale tapped the folder with 2 fingers. Your spending. Starting today, your travel costs cannot exceed $400 per trip. He paused for effect. If you do not like it, you can quit. There was no pretense left in his voice. It was not a conversation. It was a command. I let the silence stretch between us until even he shifted slightly. Then I nodded once. Understood. He frowned. That is all you have to say. I smiled small, steady, and final. Yes, sir. Thank you for everything. For the first time, I saw confusion break across his face. He had expected pushback, maybe even desperation. Instead, I gave him nothing. Rowan, he said, lowering his voice. Do not make this harder than it needs to be. It already is, I replied. When I opened the door, Jonah was passing by. He froze the second he saw my expression. What happened? He whispered. Nothing new, I said, moving past him. Nothing at all. He reached out as if to stop me. Are you okay? I did not answer. There was no point. The decision was already sitting in my chest, clear and immovable. Dale believed he had put me in my place. He did not understand that the moment I thanked him was the moment I was finished being controlled. The motel room smelled faintly of damp carpet, but it was all I could get after the company card was restricted. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my hand, Dale's ultimatum echoing in every quiet corner of the room. $400 per trip. If you do not like it, you can quit. I opened my contacts and tapped my sister's name. The phone rang once before I panicked and ended the call. I was not ready to explain why my voice was shaking or why my hands felt numb. She would ask what happened, and I would have to say it out loud. I was not ready for that. A tight pressure built behind my ribs. I swallowed hard, but the tears came anyway, small at first, then harder, the kind that make it difficult to breathe. 5 years of flights, clients, and late nights had never broken me. Dale's voice in that office had... My phone buzzed again. An email. From Horizon Tech Solutions. Rowan, is it true? Landmark is implementing extreme travel restrictions. We heard something concerning today. Please confirm if this affects our support. I read the message twice. My chest tightened for a different reason this time. Someone in the company had been talking. Maybe Dale. Maybe finance. Whoever it was. The rumors were reaching the people who mattered most. I whispered into the empty room. They are going to blame me for everything. Another tear slipped down, but I wiped it away quickly. This was not the moment to fall apart. Horizon Tech trusted me for years. They deserved the truth, not the polished version Dale wanted on his spreadsheets. I sat up straight, reached for my phone again, and opened the dial pad. No scripts, no rehearsals, just honesty. My thumb hovered over the number I knew by heart. I inhaled once, steadying myself, and pressed call. The call connected on the second ring. I heard a quick shuffle, then a familiar voice. Rowan, is everything all right? It was Daniel Harper, Horizon Tech's operations lead. He had trusted me through every expansion, every crisis, every late-night rollout. I forced my voice steady. I need to be honest with you about what's happening at Landmark. There was a pause. Go on. I told him everything. The new $400 travel cap, the rejected reimbursements, the spreadsheet of red flags. Dale's, if you don't like it, quit. Daniel did not interrupt. I could hear his breathing tighten. Though, when I finished, he spoke slowly. Rowan, this makes no sense. Your work has always been the only consistent thing Landmark delivers. They are changing policies without warning, I said. I can't support your projects the way you need under these restrictions. Daniel let out a sharp exhale. We already noticed a decline, but we assumed it was internal to your team. Every time you stepped in, things recovered. I closed my eyes. That's why I'm calling you. I won't promise support I can't deliver. Hold on, he said. You're telling me Landmark is cutting your travel to the point where you physically cannot meet us? Yes, and they put that in writing. Yes, I said again. Another voice entered the call. Emma Ruiz, Horizon's Chief Project Coordinator. Rowan, we heard rumors, but not like this. Is your job at risk? It already is. The line went silent for a moment. Then Daniel spoke, firmer than before. We need to review this immediately. Emma, set up an internal meeting for first thing in the morning. I'm on it, Emma replied. Daniel returned to me. Rowan, go home. We'll reach a decision soon. But hear me clearly, we value you, not the bureaucracy around you. I swallowed hard. Thank you for listening. When the call ended, I stared at the dark motel window, phone still in my hand. By the time I flew back to Portland the next day, Horizon Tech had already scheduled their emergency review. Their verdict, whatever it would be, was now set in motion. I arrived at the office at 7:12 in the morning, the exact moment the first alert pinged across everyone's screens. A wave of notifications rolled through the floor, email after email marked urgent. People were standing, whispering, pointing at their monitors. Jonah hurried toward me. "Rowan, Horizon Tech just canceled everything." Before I could respond, Dale burst out of his office, his voice sharp and frantic. "Who spoke to them? Who authorized this? Someone explain why our largest account just walked out." No one answered. The room felt like it was holding its breath. My inbox chimed. One new message. Subject contract termination, immediate effect. I opened it. The letter was short, formal, impossible to misinterpret. Landmark Vista Marketing has failed to meet the operational standards required for continued partnership. All active contracts with Horizon Tech Solutions are terminated effective immediately. My pulse flicked once. Then I reached the last line. "We prefer to continue working with Rowan Kincaid independently." Before I could close the message, Dale snatched my laptop from the desk and stared at the screen. His face drained. "What is this?" I told them the truth. I said, "They made their decision. You sabotaged us." He snapped. "I upheld my responsibilities. You restricted my ability to do my job." Dale stepped closer. "Do you have any idea what you've done? This department depends on those contracts. I know exactly what they depended on," I said quietly. "And it wasn't Landmark Vista." Jonah hovered behind Dale, eyes wide, as Dale struggled to find his next accusation. Emails continued pouring in, each one confirming the collapse. The floor that had ignored me for months now stared like I held the switch that shut down the building. I didn't say another word. There was nothing left to defend. The loyalty Horizon Tech showed me was the same loyalty my own company refused to offer. Horizon Tech's offices overlooked downtown Portland, all glass and quiet confidence. Daniel greeted me in the lobby with a handshake that felt steadier than anything I had experienced in weeks. "Thank you for coming in so quickly," he said. "We wanted to move fast." Emma joined us, her expression firm but warm. We reviewed everything. The restrictions you described, the pattern of interference. It matches issues we've noticed on our end. I sat across from them at a small conference table. "I appreciate you taking the time to hear me out. I did not make that call lightly." Daniel nodded. "And that's exactly why we want you here." He opened a folder and slid it toward me. "A consulting partnership. Full autonomy. You decide where you travel, when you travel, and how you run the accounts. No caps," Emma added. "No approvals for basic work. We trust your judgment." Their words hit a part of me I had kept locked away, the part that remembered why I loved this job in the first place. I read through the offer. The compensation was fair. The expectations were clear. The respect was unmistakable. Daniel watched me. "Rowan, you built these relationships. We want to invest in the person who earned our trust." I signed my name without hesitation. "I'm ready." Relief flickered across both their faces, like they had been holding their breath too. When I left the building, I sat in my car for a moment before pulling out my phone. There was one final step. I typed the message slowly, deliberately. "I'm leaving on my terms." I sent it to Dale and copied upper management. Within minutes, a reply notification flashed, not from Dale, but from the executive office. "Dale is currently under review for mismanagement of key accounts." I set my phone down. The door behind me had closed, firmly and permanently. The next one was already open, and this time, I chose it myself. I arrived at Landmark Vista just after 8 in the morning, not to work, but to finish leaving. The building felt smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I had finally stopped shrinking myself to fit inside it. Dale's office door was half open, voices inside quiet, tense, unmistakably managerial. I walked straight to his desk. My badge sat heavy in my hand, but the moment I placed it on the wood, the weight disappeared. Dale looked up mid-conversation. His face tightened. "Rowan, you cannot just, I already did," I said. The email was clear. The executives flanking him said nothing. One of them closed the door behind me as I stepped out. Jonah caught up with me near the elevators. "I saw the badge," he said softly. "So this is it." "It needed to happen." I replied. He nodded, eyes full of something between sadness and relief. "I hope they realize what they lost." "They will," I said, "sooner than they want to." By noon, a message rippled across the company group chat, unofficial, but spreading fast. Dale had been suspended pending an internal investigation for mismanagement of key accounts. The irony tasted clean for once, not bitter. I drove toward Horizon Tech's offices with a steady calm. Daniel greeted me in the lobby with a smile that didn't carry conditions or warnings. My first meeting as an independent consultant began with Emma handing me a list of projects and saying, "Take what you want, lead how you want. We trust you. No caps, no restrictions, no one watching for mistakes instead of successes." When I stepped into my new workspace, I felt something settle into place, something I had been missing for years. The freedom wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, solid, and fully earned. For the first time in a long while, the path ahead belonged entirely to me.